Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, why is my stomach getting bigger even though I don't think I'm eating that much? Perhaps you've even managed to lose a few pounds. Your clothes fit a little better. The number on the scale goes down, but your waistline barely changes. If that sounds familiar, the problem may not simply be body fat. It may be something you can't even see. Today, doctors pay close attention to something called visceral fat. Unlike the fat just beneath your skin, visceral fat surrounds your internal organs. It wraps itself around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, even your heart. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Scientists now know that visceral fat isn't simply stored energy. It behaves almost like another organ. It releases inflammatory chemicals throughout the body. It increases insulin resistance. It raises blood pressure. It contributes to fatty liver disease. It makes type 2 diabetes more likely. It even increases the risk of heart disease and certain cancers. The truly concerning part? Many people who don't look severely overweight still carry unhealthy amounts of visceral fat. Now here's where many people become discouraged. They begin searching for a miracle, a special tea, a supplement, a 7-day detox, a food that supposedly melts belly fat overnight. But real health rarely works that way. God designed the human body to heal gradually, not instantly. The Bible never promises that one meal can erase years of unhealthy habits. Instead, Scripture repeatedly points God's people towards simple foods that nourish them day after day, foods that supported strength, foods that sustained life, foods that modern nutrition science continues to study with growing admiration. No biblical food can magically eliminate visceral fat in just a few days. But many of them contain nutrients that support healthier metabolism, improve insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, and make long-term fat loss far more achievable. Today we'll explore 8 of those remarkable foods. Not miracle cures, not shortcuts, simply God's provision, still nourishing His people thousands of years later. Let's begin with one of the oldest cultivated foods in human history. Food number 1, lentils. There is perhaps no bowl of food more famous in Scripture than the bowl of lentil stew that Esau traded his birthright to receive. Genesis tells us he returned home, exhausted from the field. Jacob had prepared fresh lentils. The aroma alone convinced Esau to surrender something priceless simply to satisfy his hunger. It sounds almost unbelievable until you understand what lentils provided. For thousands of years, lentils were one of the ancient world's most complete foods, affordable, easy to store, easy to cook, remarkably filling. Today we know why. 1 cup of cooked lentils provides an impressive combination of plant protein and dietary fiber. That combination matters enormously when trying to reduce visceral fat. Protein helps preserve lean muscle during weight loss. The more muscle your body keeps, the more calories it naturally burns throughout the day. Fiber works differently. It slows digestion. Instead of glucose rushing into the bloodstream, carbohydrates are released gradually. That means smaller insulin spikes. Lower insulin levels make it easier for the body to access stored fat for energy rather than continually storing more. Researchers consistently find that people who regularly eat legumes, including lentils, tend to have healthier body weights, smaller waist circumferences, and better blood sugar control. Perhaps one reason is surprisingly simple. Lentils keep people full. When you stay satisfied longer, you're naturally less likely to snack on ultra-processed foods that contribute to visceral fat accumulation. Sometimes, the best weight loss strategy isn't eating less, it's staying full longer. Food number 2, extra virgin olive oil. If there is one food woven into nearly every page of biblical history, it is olive oil. It lit the lamps inside the temple. It anointed kings. It healed wounds. It seasoned meals. Families depended on it every single day. Unlike modern refined seed oils, extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fats and hundreds of natural polyphenols. These compounds help reduce inflammation throughout the body. Why does that matter? Because visceral fat is highly inflammatory. In fact, much of the danger associated with belly fat comes from the inflammatory chemicals it continuously releases. Reducing inflammation helps improve the body's response to insulin and supports healthier metabolism. Studies following Mediterranean populations have repeatedly shown that people who regularly replace butter and processed fats with extra virgin olive oil tend to have smaller waist circumferences and lower rates of metabolic disease. There's another fascinating mechanism. Healthy fats slow stomach emptying. That means meals stay satisfying longer. Blood sugar rises more gradually. Cravings decrease. Notice something important. Olive oil doesn't work because it burns fat. It works because it creates an environment where the body manages energy more effectively. God's design often works quietly, not dramatically, one meal at a time. Food number 3. Barley. Imagine standing beside Ruth as she gathers grain in the fields of Boaz. The grain she collected wasn't merely food, it represented hope, provision, a future. Among the grains commonly eaten throughout biblical times, barley held a special place. It fed families during difficult seasons. It became the bread of ordinary working people. Even the loaves Jesus multiplied to feed the 5,000 were barley loaves. Modern nutrition has revealed why barley deserves renewed attention. It contains an extraordinary type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. When beta-glucan reaches the digestive system, it absorbs water and forms a thick gel. That gel slows digestion dramatically. Blood sugar rises more slowly. Insulin remains steadier. Hunger stays away longer. Scientists have repeatedly linked higher beta-glucan intake with reductions in abdominal fat, improved cholesterol levels, and healthier blood sugar regulation. Barley also nourishes beneficial gut bacteria. Researchers now recognize that a healthier gut microbiome influences metabolism, appetite hormones, inflammation, and even where the body prefers to store fat. Who would have imagined that one of the oldest grains mentioned in Scripture would also become one of the most thoroughly researched? Sometimes ancient wisdom and modern science arrive at exactly the same conclusion. Simple foods, prepared consistently, can accomplish extraordinary things over time. Food number 4, fish. When Jesus appeared to his disciples after the resurrection, one of the first things they offered him was a piece of broiled fish. Later, beside the Sea of Galilee, he prepared breakfast over a charcoal fire with freshly caught fish. Those moments are simple, almost ordinary, yet they remind us that fish wasn't considered a special occasion food in biblical times. For families living near the Sea of Galilee or the Mediterranean coast, fish was part of everyday life. It was affordable, nutritious, and one of the best sources of protein available. Today, nutrition science explains why fish deserves a place in nearly every conversation about metabolic health. One of the biggest mistakes people make while trying to lose weight is focusing only on calories. But the body doesn't respond to all calories in the same way. Protein has a much higher thermic effect than carbohydrates or fat. In simple terms, your body burns more energy digesting protein than it does digesting many other foods. Protein also helps preserve lean muscle while you're losing weight. Why is that important? Because muscle is metabolically active tissue. The more muscle you maintain, the easier it becomes for your body to burn energy throughout the day. Fatty fish such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel offer another remarkable advantage. They're rich in omega-3 fatty acids. These healthy fats help reduce chronic inflammation, one of the defining characteristics of excess visceral fat. Researchers have found that people who regularly consume omega-3 rich fish often show improvements in triglyceride levels, insulin sensitivity, and markers of metabolic health. Some studies even suggest modest reductions in abdominal fat when fish is included as part of an overall healthy eating pattern. Fish also supplies iodine and selenium, two nutrients essential for healthy thyroid function. Your thyroid helps regulate how efficiently your body uses energy. When thyroid function is impaired, maintaining a healthy weight can become much more difficult. The lesson here isn't that fish melts belly fat. It's that it nourishes nearly every system involved in healthy metabolism. That's a much more powerful benefit over the long term. Food number 5, chickpeas. For thousands of years, chickpeas were one of the most dependable foods throughout the ancient Near East. Families stored them through dry seasons. Travelers carried them on long journeys. They could be boiled, roasted, ground into flour, or mashed into simple meals. They weren't exciting. They were dependable. Sometimes the healthiest foods are exactly like that. Dependable. Modern research has uncovered several reasons why chickpeas deserve renewed attention. Like lentils, they combine two nutrients that work beautifully together: protein and fiber. But chickpeas contain another fascinating component called resistant starch. Unlike ordinary starch, resistant starch passes through much of the small intestine without being digested. Instead, it reaches the large intestine, where it becomes food for beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids. Scientists now believe these compounds influence hunger hormones, reduce inflammation, and improve insulin sensitivity. Think about that for a moment. Part of what determines whether you feel hungry tomorrow depends on the tiny organisms living inside your digestive system today. God designed the body with incredible complexity. Researchers studying chickpeas have consistently found improvements in satiety. People simply stay full longer. That's important because visceral fat rarely develops from one large meal. It develops from hundreds of small decisions. The afternoon snack, the late-night dessert, the handful of chips eaten without thinking. When wholesome foods naturally reduce hunger, healthier choices become much easier. One practical way to enjoy chickpeas is to replace refined snacks with roasted chickpeas seasoned with herbs and a drizzle of olive oil. Simple, affordable, deeply satisfying. Exactly the kind of food families have relied on for generations. Food number 6, walnuts. The Song of Solomon speaks of a garden filled with nut trees. Among them, Many historians believe walnuts were highly valued throughout the biblical world. Unlike many foods that spoiled quickly, walnuts could be stored for months. They traveled well. They provided concentrated nutrition during difficult seasons, and they remain one of the most remarkable foods available today. Walnuts are unique because they're one of the few tree nuts containing significant amounts of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids. Like the omega-3s found in fish, these healthy fats help calm chronic inflammation. Remember what we've learned. Visceral fat is not merely stored fat. It's active tissue. It constantly releases inflammatory chemicals throughout the body. Anything that helps reduce unnecessary inflammation supports healthier metabolism. Walnuts also contain protein, fiber, magnesium, and antioxidants. Together, these nutrients help regulate appetite while supporting healthier blood sugar control. One fascinating study used brain imaging to observe participants after eating walnuts. Researchers found increased activity in regions of the brain associated with appetite control. In other words, walnuts may help people feel satisfied not only because of their nutrients, but also because of the way the brain responds to them. That's remarkable. Another benefit is cardiovascular protection. People struggling with excess visceral fat often have elevated cholesterol, high blood pressure, or insulin resistance. Walnuts appear to improve several of these markers simultaneously when included as part of a balanced diet. Of course, moderation remains important. Walnuts are nutrient-dense. A small handful is usually enough. Scripture repeatedly teaches wisdom rather than excess. The same principle applies here. It's not about eating enormous amounts. It's about choosing better foods consistently. As we've now seen 6 different biblical foods, a pattern begins to emerge. None promise overnight transformation. None claim to melt fat while you sleep. Instead, every one of them quietly supports the body's natural design. Health doesn't usually arrive through dramatic shortcuts. More often, it grows through ordinary meals, prepared wisely, shared gratefully, and repeated faithfully over time. Food number 7. Garlic. When the Israelites wandered through the wilderness, there came a moment when they began remembering the foods they had eaten in Egypt. Among the foods they missed, one stands out: garlic. That small detail in the book of Numbers tells us something remarkable. Garlic wasn't an occasional seasoning. It was part of everyday life. For thousands of years, civilizations across the ancient world valued garlic not only for its flavor, but also for the way it seemed to promote health. Today, modern science has given us a better understanding of why. When garlic is crushed or chopped, it produces a sulfur compound called allicin. Allicin has been studied for its ability to support heart health, improve circulation, and reduce chronic inflammation. Those benefits matter because excess visceral fat creates an inflammatory environment throughout the body. The liver works harder. Blood vessels become less healthy. Insulin becomes less effective. Researchers have also observed that garlic may support healthier cholesterol levels and blood pressure, 2 conditions that frequently accompany excess belly fat. Some clinical studies have even found modest reductions in body weight and waist circumference among participants regularly consuming garlic alongside healthy lifestyle changes. That doesn't mean garlic is a fat burner. Rather, it supports several systems that help the body function more efficiently. One simple tip can make a surprising difference. After crushing fresh garlic, Allow it to rest for about 10 minutes before cooking. This gives the enzyme responsible for producing allicin enough time to complete its work. Sometimes, the smallest details unlock the greatest benefits. If you take blood-thinning medication, however, speak with your healthcare provider before significantly increasing your garlic intake, as garlic may interact with certain medications. Food number 8. Almonds. When Jacob prepared gifts to send to Egypt during the famine, one of the items he selected was almonds. That choice reveals how valuable almonds were in the ancient world. They weren't ordinary. They were precious enough to be presented before a ruler. Today, almonds remain one of the most thoroughly researched foods for appetite control and metabolic health. At first glance, many people avoid nuts because they're high in calories. But calories tell only part of the story. A small handful of almonds delivers protein, healthy fats, fiber, magnesium, and vitamin E, all working together in ways that help regulate hunger. One of the greatest challenges in reducing visceral fat isn't what happens during lunch. It's what happens between meals. The craving that appears mid-afternoon, the trip to the pantry after dinner, the snack eaten while watching television. Almonds help interrupt that cycle. Because they digest slowly, they promote lasting fullness. Several studies have shown that people who regularly include almonds in balanced diets often experience improved weight management despite the nut's calorie content. Scientists believe one reason is that not all of the fat contained in whole almonds is fully absorbed by the body. Another reason is behavioral. People who stay satisfied are less likely to overeat later in the day. Almonds also provide magnesium, a mineral involved in hundreds of metabolic processes, including insulin action and blood sugar regulation. Interestingly, magnesium deficiency is relatively common among people with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Whole foods rich in magnesium help support the body's natural processes in ways supplements alone often cannot replicate. As always, moderation matters. A small handful is usually enough. More isn't necessarily better. The wisdom found throughout Scripture often reminds us that blessings are best enjoyed with self-control. Food is no exception. Final thoughts. So what do these 8 biblical foods have in common? Lentils help stabilize blood sugar through protein and fiber. Extra virgin olive oil supports healthier blood vessels and reduces inflammation. Barley nourishes the gut while slowing digestion. Fish provides high-quality protein and omega-3 fats. Chickpeas feed both your body and your beneficial gut bacteria. Walnuts help regulate appetite while protecting the heart. Garlic supports healthy circulation and metabolic function. Almonds make healthy eating more satisfying and sustainable. Notice something important. Not one of these foods promises instant results. Not one claims to erase years of unhealthy habits in a few days. Real transformation rarely happens that way. Visceral fat develops slowly. It usually disappears the same way, through faithful choices repeated day after day. That's one of the quiet lessons woven throughout Scripture. God often works through consistency rather than spectacle. The Israelites gathered manna every morning. Farmers harvested one season at a time. Olive trees took years before producing their greatest harvests. Healthy living follows that same pattern. If you're trying to reduce visceral fat, don't look for one miracle ingredient. Build a table filled with real food. Walk a little more each day. Sleep well. Manage stress. Stay physically active and work closely with your healthcare provider, especially if you're living with diabetes, heart disease, or other chronic conditions. The goal isn't simply a smaller waistline. It's a healthier body that allows you to serve, love, work, and enjoy the life God has given you for many years to come. Because in the end, biblical nutrition has never been about chasing the latest trend. It's about embracing God's provision with wisdom, gratitude, and moderation. Thank you so much for watching. May the Lord bless you with strength, good health, and the wisdom to care faithfully for the body He has entrusted to you. We'll see you again in the next video.